1973, my friends. Dr. Von Chilla back at you. In 1973, it was the first time that I ever remember in school being acknowledged or labeled as that comic book kid. You know, when you're kids like that, you don't perhaps have the capacity to remember everyone's name and all, but I became known as that comic book kid, and that moniker stuck really all the way through high school and all. But that's actually a real good way to introduce the 1973 portion of this chronology of my reading and collecting history. The comic book kid arrives. I just found an unplundered stack of readers, so I got to flip through a whole bunch of stuff that I hadn't really paid any attention to since beginning making these videos. Here's a beloved series from 1973, the Steve Englehart, Frank Bruner, Dr. Strange run. They're just tremendous books in every way. Great artwork by Frank Bruner. Excellent splash page there. The whole storyline about the death of the Ancient One really gripped me as a child. It seemed profound to me even then, you know, when the Ancient One died in Marvel Premiere number 10. It seemed, I got it. I understood why Doctor Strange was so rattled and at such a loss. And that was kind of at the center of the storyline through this short run. But it's great, great stuff. Love it. Love everything about it. Here's a couple of the Kubert Tarzans that I bought off the rack, including what is, again, probably my favorite of the entire Kubert run, number 224. Just great, great stuff all the way around. Blazing stuff from Kubert. I don't know how you couldn't love it. It's just really, really great. But then again, I think Kubert may have been one of those artists at the time that a lot of youngsters didn't appreciate. It wasn't slick and smooth looking like Spider-Man or Batman or what have you. You know, at the time, to me, it's just extraordinary. I love everything about it. Beautiful stuff. Wow. I need to go back in and reread some of those. Here's just a Spidey of the time. Spidey and Captain America were my favorite books of probably the 72 to 74 period. Great stuff all the way around. Really beloved stuff to me. Around this time, I started picking up some non-superhero titles. Well, I was picking up the occasional reprint, the Spidey reprints in Marvel Tales, and the Fantastic Four reprints in Marvel's Greatest Comics. But I kind of branched out into the monster reprints from the pre-hero Tales to Astonish, Strange Tales, Tales of Suspense. Stan Lee's imagination just exploding at this time. I don't know how Stan was able to come up with so many stories in a single month. It just boggles my mind. But these books, the Where Monsters Dwell, Where Creatures Roam, Monsters on the Prowl, what have you, they're all great titles to collect. Really awesome stuff. My friend Larry, who was the only other kid that really collected comic books that I knew of, although his intensity wasn't quite at the pitch of mine. The good thing was we kind of, cross-pollinated, as it were. I was the Marvel kid, he was the DC kid, primarily for each, and we each turned each other on to new things. And one of the things he turned me on to that would become an obsession in later years were these Marvel early bronze Western reprints. Lots of great stuff in these titles. This was one of Larry's off-the-rack books, which he gave to me back in the 80s, I think. We were out of high school, and he gave me a big stack of his old books. But here's one blazing Gil Kane cover. But again, I became obsessed with these when, well, probably in the 90s, I started going to local shows and things, and you could easily buy these Westerns straight out of the bargain bins, you know, 2 for $1 or whatever, and I collected literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them, trying to eventually, you know, collect the best copies and all. But that's another story for another video. Something else that was going on in '73, it was around this time that I discovered the Multipacks. The ones that I remember most were the coverless books. You got 3 books for 29 cents, I think it was. And here's the only one that I could find that I actually have left that I bought at that time. This is a copy of Daredevil '93. But you'd get 3 coverless books. And I was able to, through those multi-packs, I really mined a lot of the early bronze stuff. A lot of Captain America, Spider-Man, Batman, Submariner, Fantastic Four. I've read so many books out of those coverless packs. Here's a couple of examples of another way in which they'd come in the packs. These were called stripped, or I guess what we know now and what we call now as a stripped book, where the dealer would strip the title and send it back to the distributor to get credit. And oftentimes they would remove the entire cover, or again, or they would perhaps be allowed the option to just strip the title. Here's a couple, and these stripped books are not my original purchases. I picked them up fairly recently, and as you can see, there's a couple of really classic Neil Adams books here. But I really just picked these stripped books up for the nostalgia of them, and they make for great readers too. Here is a legendary book from 1973. This is my off-the-rack copy of Conan 24. I was really getting into Conan at the time. And my love of Conan, my purchase of Conan on a monthly basis lasted through the end of the 70s. But this book, if y'all don't know what it is or have never seen it, it was Barry Smith's farewell to the title, and he pulled out all the stops on this issue and knocked it out of the ballpark. Now this was, of course, back in the days when he was still just known as Barry Smith. It wasn't Barry Windsor Smith. At the time, it was just Barry Smith. And incidentally, he also did the coloring on this issue, which is quite unique and very unlike anything else that I remember going on at the time. But it's just stunningly, stunningly illustrated. There's a reason why this book is so profoundly legendary as a Bronze Age gem. It seems crazy to me, all the things that pass as keys nowadays from this period, and this thing can still be had in super high grade for mere pennies compared to a lot of these other keys, but that's just my opinion. Anyway, more blazing material from the time. This is an all-timer of mine. Comes from that incredible Steve Englehart, Sal Buscema run of Captain America and the Falcon from 72 to 74. I'll probably do a dedicated video of this book. So beloved is it in my comic book world. Again, I'm of the humble opinion that there was no one drawing these blazing battle sequences at the time the way Sal could do it. He just had a dynamic in his layouts. He completely understood how to draw just insanely awesome battle sequences. He got it. He did it, boy. And it completely electrified me. I loved Captain America and the Falcon. And those books will get some more love and attention from me here in the future. Now, here's one I'm going to show just because our friend Shannon, Solid 4-String Bend, he posted a comment on one of my videos recently that said, boy, my off-the-rack stuff from the time doesn't look nearly that beautiful, but I want to dedicate the showing of this book to you, Shannon, just as the extreme example of not all of my off-the-rack stuff from the period is all that beautiful. Here is my super trashed copy, off-the-rack copy of Spidey 121. There's something of a story that goes along with this. My friend Larry, whom I just spoke of, I lent this copy to a classmate. I didn't really want to, but I did, and I never got the book back. Sometime later, Larry was over at this kid's house, saw the book, and said, I know who that comic book belongs to, and I'm taking it back. You know, growled at the kid, and I'll be damned. He brought the book back to me. Now, I don't know what happened to it, because there was a period of about 20 years where I didn't see it again. I don't recall what happened to it. But it turned up again in probably the early 90s when my sister Cindy gave me her stack of the off-the-rack books that she had chosen as a child, mostly Archie and romance and Lois Lane and stuff like that. And that copy was in there some way, somehow. And I'm assuming that's how I got the tape and all that junk all over it, because even as a little boy like that, as a young collector, I never, ever, ever used tape. All I can think of was my sister liked it so much that she must have tried to keep it intact with the tape. Anyway, that's my story of my beloved Amazing Spider-Man 121. There's tons more to talk about in 1973, and I'm just going to close this video with a brief introduction into these books. They're magazines, really, along the same vein, roughly the same vein as Creepy and Eerie from Warren Publications, but these titles were published by a company called Eerie Publications, and they are just insane. Absolute madness. You want to talk about violence, gore, nudity. These books are just sheer madness. I'm not sure why my dad chose to bring these books home, as the Warren titles are much more sophisticated and artful, as it were. But there were about half a dozen titles my dad brought home for about a year from the Eerie Publications. This particular copy came from a high-grade lot of 73, 74 Eerie Publications that I bought about 10 or 12 years ago. But this was one of the particular ones my dad brought home for me. And you can see by the cover just the absolute mayhem that's going on in here. There is certainly a direct line from the craziness that was going on in the 50s with the crime comics and the horror comics and all. Direct line from those books to these. These are well worth seeking out if one is so inclined, or has an inclination toward crazy, insanely violent and hideous stuff marketed for children. But I'm going to do a video specifically or dedicated to these magazines one of these days, coming up here soon, so stick around for that. I think what I'm going to do in the next video, is I've gotten some requests for it, I'm going to pull out a bunch of stuff from the collection proper, instead of just showing these off-the-rack books to illustrate my chronology. So I'm just going to pull a bunch of random stuff out from the probably the late silver into this early bronze period, and show some of those real goodies, the real beauties. I know y'all have been waiting to see some of that stuff for a while, so that's what I'm going to do in the next video. So I hope you enjoyed this introduction to 1973. Plenty more to talk about it in this year for sure, and we'll get back to you real soon, my friends. So hang in there, happy collecting, and we'll catch you on the rebound. Bye-bye.